The desert is a living silence. Stone ridges glow like hammered bronze beneath a ruthless sun, and wind carves its slow music through canyons of dust. Somewhere in that endless barrenness, a mountain waits, dark, jagged, alive with rumor. Lightning claws across a black sky. Thunder rolls like the voice of a hidden god. Below, a restless people huddle around their fires. They are former slaves, newly freed yet still bound by fear. 40 days have passed since their leader vanished into the storm at Sinai's summit. What did he see in the thick cloud? What words thundered into his heart? When Moses descends, he carries not only stone tablets but a vision, a covenant sealed in fire and promise. At its center stands a command to build something no eye has ever witnessed, an ark of acacia wood overlaid with gold, a throne for the unseen. It will be more than a chest, it will be the meeting place of heaven and earth. Here begins a story that will ripple through empires and centuries, a tale of awe and peril, of power both divine and deeply human. The Ark of the Covenant is about to be born. The mountains still trembled when the first instructions came. Amid the haze of incense and the echo of shofars, Moses relayed every detail, the length and breadth of the sacred chest, the gold-plated rings for the carrying poles, the cherubim whose wings would stretch toward one another like eternal guardians. This was no simple reliquary. It was a portable throne, the very footstool of the Almighty, where law and presence would dwell side by side. The Israelites, hardened by slavery yet ignited by deliverance, set to work. Artisans hammered gold until it gleamed like liquid sunlight. Carpenters shaped acacia wood, the desert's stubborn survivor, into panels that would outlast kingdoms. The air filled with the scent of resin and the rhythm of mallets. Each stroke was an act of devotion, a pledge of fidelity to the covenant sealed in fire. Around them, the wilderness stretched, hostile, immense. Yet the camp pulsed with expectation. To carry the ark would be to carry the heartbeat of their God, a force capable of splitting seas and toppling the mighty. The tribes understood, this object was not merely holy, it was dangerous. To touch it unbidden was to invite death. When the final cherub's wing met its twin, a hush fell. The ark stood complete, radiant under the desert sun. Inside lay the stone tablets of the law, testament and warning. Priests in linen lifted it with trembling hands, sliding poles through golden rings so that no flesh would brush the sacred wood. As dusk descended, a pillar of cloud settled over the newly built tabernacle. The people watched, hearts pounding. In that moment, the invisible became visible, the presence of the divine dwelling among wanderers. The ark was not a symbol, it was a force, a covenant made tangible, a bridge between mortal and eternal. Night after night, its glow seemed to pulse like a quiet star within the camp. Children whispered legends around fires, while elders gazed at the veiled sanctuary, eyes reflecting both fear and wonder. The ark promised protection, yet demanded obedience. It bound the tribes together as nothing else could, a single center of gravity for a people still finding their shape. Soon it would move, through wilderness storms, across deserts without mercy, and into battles where walls would crumble at its approach. But for now, it rested in the shadow of Sinai, a silent promise of power and destiny. The wind carried a faint metallic scent, as if the very air remembered lightning. Far to the east, the lands of Canaan lay waiting, unaware that a gilded chest born in the barren waste would one day shake their fortresses and haunt the dreams of kings. Ahead lies the march through a brutal wilderness, where the ark will lead like a living flame, its journey only beginning. The desert dawn arrives in colors of copper and pale gold, washing over an ocean of sand that stretches beyond sight. In the camp of Israel, the Ark of the Covenant waits at the center like a sleeping star. Canvas tents ripple in the early breeze, the smell of last night's fires clings to the air. Trumpets sound, a low, resonant call, and a nation begins to move. Priests lift the gilded chest with practiced precision, their faces set with a solemn awe. The poles bite into their shoulders as the ark rises. Around them, a tide of humanity swells, men, women, children, herds of goats and sheep, each step a crunch of resolve against the harsh gravel of the Sinai. The ark leads, always leads, its golden cherubim catching the first hard light of morning. Days blur into an unforgiving rhythm. The sun scorches, the nights bite with cold, and the wilderness tests both body and faith. Yet above the ark, a pillar of cloud glides by day, a flame by night, a moving beacon that no enemy could match. When the column halts, so does the nation. When it stirs, the camp rises in a single motion, like a living organism guided by an unseen will. There are moments of terror. At Sinai's edge, whispers spread of Amalekite raiders. In the darkness, eyes gleam like coals. But whenever the ark is borne to the front, fear seems to melt. Warriors tighten their grips on spears, believing that the very breath of heaven travels with them. Skirmishes break out, sharp, brutal clashes where victory feels less like skill and more like destiny pressing its seal upon the battlefield. Food and water remain constant trials. The desert yields little, and hunger gnaws like a slow fever. Yet each morning manna dusts the ground like frost, a quiet miracle that steadies the restless heart. Around evening fires, elders tell stories of the ark's first blaze of power at Sinai, of the covenant written in thunder. Children listen wide-eyed, their small faces flickering in firelight, while above them the stars sprawl like a scripture older than memory. As months bleed into years, the ark becomes the nation's pulse. When rebellion stirs, voices doubting Moses, hearts turning back toward Egypt, it is the ark's silent witness that steadies the wavering. Those who defy the covenant are swallowed by earth or struck by unseen force, grim reminders that this is no mere ornament of faith but a presence alive and vigilant. Across rugged valleys and parched plateaus, the people learn to march not as wanderers but as a people of purpose. The ark is their compass, their war standard, their beating heart. Each stop leaves behind a trace of legend, places where the ground itself seemed to hum beneath the weight of divinity, where storms veered as if in deference to the golden chest. Finally, after years that feel both endless and measured, the silhouette of the promised land hovers on the horizon, a greener line beyond the stone and sand. The ark stands at the threshold, burnished by sun and time, carrying not only the tablets of law but the memory of every step, every trial, every whispered prayer in the dark. The wilderness march has forged a nation around a single sacred core. As twilight settles over the Jordan's edge, the ark waits, its cherubim poised like wings eager to cross. Ahead lie fortified cities and ancient kings, but also the promise of a home. The desert journey is ending, yet the ark's odyssey, its role in battles and miracles still unwritten, has only begun. Dawn spills over the Jordan Valley in a hush of rose and bronze. Mist rises from the riverbanks as if the earth itself exhales. Beyond the rippling reeds stands Jericho, a city of stone and stubborn pride. Its walls, thick as ancient oaks, catch the first light like a challenge flung at heaven. Inside, sentries pace along battlements, spears glinting. They have heard the rumors, a wandering people approaching with a golden chest said to carry the presence of a god. On the opposite bank, the Ark of the Covenant rests beneath linen veils, beating on its gilded cherubim. Priests move in silence, eyes lowered, while warriors tighten their leather straps. The air tastes of river mist and anticipation. Joshua, successor to Moses, steps forward, his voice a low command that ripples through the gathered tribes. This is no ordinary campaign, this is the covenant's first great test in the land of promise. The crossing begins. As the priests bearing the ark step into the river, the Jordan recoils. Waters surge backward as though startled, carving a dry path through its heart. The people pass through with wide eyes and racing hearts, the ark glimmering at the center of the miracle. Behind them, the river closes with a roar, erasing their trail and sealing their fate on Canaan's soil. Night falls, and the camp rises outside Jericho's towering walls. Torches flicker like restless spirits in the dark. Yet there is no plan for siege engines or scaling ladders, only an enigmatic command from the unseen: march, circle, wait. For 6 days, the Israelites move in deliberate silence, a slow river of humanity threading around Jericho's ramparts. Priests blow ram's horns, their mournful cry echoing through the stone canyons of the city. From atop the walls, Jericho's defenders watch in unease, their taunts thinly veiled by growing dread. By the seventh day, tension coils like a drawn bow. The ark leads the procession again, its golden surfaces catching the hard glare of the morning sun. 7 times they encircle the city, each circuit a tightening news of inevitability. The final blast of the shofar shatters the air, a sound not merely heard but felt, like the earth's own heartbeat unleashed. The ground trembles. Dust geysers upward as stones shift and groan. Jericho's walls, proud and unyielding for centuries, crack like sun-baked clay. In a thunder of collapsing rock, the city that once defied kings crumbles before an unseen force. Shouts rise from the Israelites, a surge of awe and terror blending into one cry. Through the breach they advance, not as conquerors alone but as witnesses to a power beyond steel or strategy. The ark remains at the center, unmoving, as if the very air bends around it. The victory is swift, the silence after overwhelming, a stillness broken only by the distant echo of horns and the soft settling of dust. In the aftermath, as smoke spirals into a darkening sky, the people grasp what has unfolded. This is not merely triumph in battle, it is a proclamation. The Ark of the Covenant is no passive relic but an instrument of divine will, capable of toppling empires and rewriting the landscape of fear. When dusk falls, the camp glows with firelight and reverence. Children stare at the ark's shadow against the tents, their imaginations aflame with the memory of walls falling like paper. The priests guard it closely, understanding more than ever the dangerous intimacy of its power. Far beyond Jericho, other kings will hear the tale and tremble. The land ahead is vast, dotted with strongholds and ancient idols, but the message is already written in shattered stone. Wherever the ark goes, the ground itself must decide whether to stand or yield. The march of fire continues, carrying a promise and a warning. This gilded chest, born in the wilderness, now strides across history as a force that cities cannot ignore and kings cannot resist. Morning mist curls over the rolling hills of Ephraim as a quiet settlement stirs to life. Shiloh, humble, stony, encircled by vineyards, has become the heart of a restless nation. Here the Ark of the Covenant rests after the long campaigns of conquest, its golden cherubim hidden within a sacred tent. From every corner of Israel, pilgrims arrive in slow processions, carrying offerings and stories. Their sandals raise soft clouds of dust as they approach the tabernacle, where the air smells of olive oil and incense, and the hush of expectation lies heavy as a storm. Inside, the ark glimmers in the candlelit gloom. Priests move like shadows around it, their chants low and resonant. To the people, the ark is no longer just a war standard. It is the very throne of the unseen king, a silent assurance that their victories and their survival are bound to a covenant older than the stones beneath their feet. Festivals erupt with music and dance, yet even in joy there is an undercurrent of awe. To gaze upon the ark is forbidden, but its presence radiates through the tent like heat from an unseen sun. Decades pass, and Israel shifts from tribal confederation to monarchy. Saul falters, and David rises, a shepherd warrior whose heart once soothed the haunted king. David dreams not merely of rule but of a center where the divine and the human meet. His eyes turn toward Jerusalem, a fortress city perched on ancient hills, where Canaanite walls catch the sunset in molten hues. To unite the tribes, David must also unite their worship. The ark, long kept in the quiet hills, must come to the capital. The journey from Shiloh to Jerusalem unfolds like a living psalm. Crowds line the rugged roads, their voices lifting in song as priests bear the ark on gilded poles. Harps and tambourines mingle with the steady beat of drums, the very earth seems to hum with anticipation. Yet the power of the ark is not to be handled lightly. When an eager hand reaches to steady it, the man falls lifeless, struck down in an instant that chills the celebration. The procession halts, fear thick as dusk. Even David trembles, grasping anew the peril of drawing the divine too near. Months later, after careful rites and prayers, the ark resumes its ascent. Jerusalem's gates swing wide, and the city erupts in jubilant welcome. David dances before the ark with unguarded abandon, his royal robes cast aside for simple linen. Trumpets pierce the air, echoing off the stone walls as the ark enters the city of David. In this moment, the invisible king takes his place among the people, and Jerusalem becomes not just a political heart but a spiritual axis, a beacon for generations yet unborn. Within the city, plans take shape for a dwelling more permanent than tents. David envisions a temple of cedar and gold, a house worthy of the presence that toppled Jericho and steadied the wilderness. Though it will fall to Solomon to build it, the vision ignites the nation. Stones are quarried, artisans summoned, and the scent of newly cut timber fills the streets. In time, the ark will rest within a sanctuary lined with pure gold, flanked by towering cherubim whose wings stretch like protective canopies. But tonight, as lamps flicker along Jerusalem's narrow alleys and the hills echo with distant songs, the ark remains the silent core of a kingdom in the making. It stands as both promise and warning, an object that carries the weight of heaven yet dwells among men. From the quiet valleys of Shiloh to the royal courts of Jerusalem, the ark's journey reveals a truth deeper than victory or conquest. The divine presence is never a possession. It is a mystery that chooses its own dwelling, a fire that blesses and burns in the same breath. And as the city settles into night, the golden chest gleams in the torchlight, a throne for the invisible king whose story is far from finished. Night drapes the hills of Israel in a veil of restless silence. In the valleys, campfires flicker like scattered stars as warriors sharpen bronze blades. The Ark of the Covenant rests in the sanctuary at Shiloh, its golden cherubim catching the faint glow of oil lamps. To many, it has become less a mystery than a weapon, an invincible charm that once shattered Jericho and steadied kings. Yet beneath the confidence, the air trembles with a tension that even seasoned soldiers cannot name. The Philistines advance from the coastal plains, their iron spears gleaming with the first light of dawn. They are a sea people, disciplined and relentless, their chariots cutting through the dust with a shriek of iron. Israel rallies at Ebenezer, priests invoking the ark as their surety of victory. Trumpets blare, warriors shout as the sacred chest is borne into the ranks. A roar rises, faith and defiance braided into one sound. But the battle turns. Philistine lines hold, then surge. Their iron-tipped weapons punch through shields of wood and hide. Screams mingle with the clash of metal as Israel's army buckles. The ark, once a symbol of unstoppable force, now stands amid chaos. Priests fall, the poles slip, and the unthinkable unfolds. The ark is seized, lifted high by enemy hands while the fields of Ebenezer run red. Word spreads like wildfire. From Shiloh to the highlands of Ephraim, panic ripples through villages and sanctuaries. Mothers clutch their children, elders tear their garments. The ark, the heart of Israel's covenant, has been taken. In the city of Eli the high priest, a runner arrives breathless, dust-caked. His words strike like a hammer, the army shattered, his sons dead, the ark captured. The old priest staggers, falls, and does not rise. The Philistines carry their prize to Ashdod, a bustling port where incense mingles with salt air. They set the ark in the temple of Dagon, their fish god towering in cold stone. By torchlight they gloat, believing Israel's deity defeated. But in the dark hours, the ark becomes a silent adversary. At dawn the idol of Dagon lies face down before the golden chest, its stone head and hands broken like brittle clay. Priests whisper, uneasy. Soon a plague of tumors and rats ravages Ashdod. The sacred trophy is hurried to Gath, then Ekron, each city in turn stricken with dread and sickness. The Philistines begin to fear they have not conquered a god but invited one. Their triumph tastes of ash. Meanwhile, Israel mourns in stunned quiet. Shiloh's sanctuary stands empty, its sacred center ripped away. Yet in the absence of the ark, a deeper reverence stirs, a realization that the divine cannot be wielded like a weapon. The covenant is not a charm to guarantee victory, it is a presence that demands humility. After 7 tormenting months, the Philistines yield. They place the ark on a new cart drawn by lowing cows, sending it toward the border with offerings of gold shaped like the plagues that struck them. Along a dusty road the animals walk without guidance, a solemn procession back toward the hills of Israel. Farmers in the fields of Beth Shemesh see the gleam of gold and cry out, dropping their tools to run toward the approaching wonder. The ark returns, but the lesson lingers like the echo of thunder. Israel learns that the power within the gilded chest is not bound to any army or city. It is neither trophy nor talisman. It is the ungovernable presence of the invisible King, a force that blesses or burns according to no human design. As twilight deepens over the recovering land, the ark rests again among its people, silent yet commanding. The memory of its captivity burns into Israel's story, a warning carved as deeply as the covenant itself. And beyond the quiet hills, new monarchies rise and fall, unaware that this golden chest, so easily captured, so impossible to contain, will continue to shape the destiny of nations. The first light of dawn pours over Jerusalem's ridges like molten copper, catching rooftops still wet with night's dew. In the heart of the city, the air hums with a quiet expectancy. After years of war and wandering, Israel stands in a rare hush of peace. King Solomon, heir to David's fierce vision, rules a kingdom whose borders stretch like a golden promise from the Red Sea to the gates of Damascus. Wealth flows in caravans of cedar, ivory, and gold. Merchants speak of Jerusalem as a rising star in the ancient world. At the center of Solomon's reign stands a dream older than his crown, a house for the Ark of the Covenant, a dwelling not of tents but of stone and glory. His father David had yearned for it, but the task fell to the son, a man of wisdom and shimmering ambition. From Lebanon's mountains, cedars are felled and floated down the coast. From distant mines, gold and precious stones arrive in caravans that glitter under the desert sun. Thousands of laborers shape limestone blocks so vast they seem hewn from the bones of the earth itself. The temple rises slowly, rhythmically, as if the city itself breathes in its cadence. 7 years of chisels ringing against stone, of hammers echoing across the hills. Each courtyard, each column is carved with palm trees and open flowers, an earthly Eden coaxed into architecture. Bronze pillars named Jachin and Boaz gleam like captured sunlight at the entrance. Inside, artisans overlay walls and floors with sheets of pure gold until the inner chambers glow as if kindled by heaven. Finally comes the day of dedication. Priests in white linen ascend the Temple Mount as crowds surge through Jerusalem's narrow streets. Trumpets pierce the warm air, their notes cascading like waterfalls of sound. The ark, veiled and radiant, is lifted by Levite shoulders and carried from the city of David to its new home. Drums roll in solemn rhythm as the procession climbs, a golden heartbeat pulsing through the throng. At the great doors of the temple, the people fall silent. Solomon himself steps forward, robes glinting with the light of countless oil lamps. His prayer rises like incense, a plea for the God of Israel to dwell among his people, to make this house a place where heaven brushes earth. As the last words fade, a sudden cloud fills the inner court, dense, luminous, alive. Priests stagger back, faces pale, for the glory of the Lord has descended like a storm of light. Within the Holy of Holies, the ark is set beneath 2 colossal cherubim of gold, their wings arching wide as if to shield the covenant itself. The air shimmers with a presence older than the hills. Outside, the crowd erupts in song and sacrifice, the music of harps and cymbals swirling through the night until the stars seem to tremble. Jerusalem becomes a magnet for pilgrims and monarchs alike. Caravans from Sheba and Ophir bring spices and treasures, lured by the fame of Solomon's wisdom and the splendor of his temple. The ark, once a wandering relic of tents and wilderness, now rests at the very heart of a stone-angled cosmos, a steady flame amid the swirl of wealth and diplomacy. Yet beneath the glitter of Solomon's reign, shadows lengthen. The king's alliances with foreign wives bring rival gods into the land, their shrines creeping up the hillsides like ivy on ancient walls. The people revel in prosperity, but the covenant demands more than splendor. Prophets warn of hearts grown careless, of faith diluted by luxury. The ark remains silent, but its history whispers that divine presence cannot be confined by cedar beams or golden altars. As the sun sinks behind the western hills, the temple glows in a final blaze of crimson and gold. Its courtyards echo with the footfalls of priests and pilgrims, with the murmur of prayers rising like smoke to the evening sky. Within the inner sanctum, the ark rests beneath the spreading wings of cherubim, a still center in a kingdom that believes itself secure. But history is a patient tide. Empires stir beyond the horizon, and the splendor of Solomon's day will not endure untested. For now, though, Jerusalem stands at the height of its glory, the ark enthroned in majesty, silent, eternal, waiting for the next turn of fate's unyielding wheel. Twilight settles over Jerusalem in a haze of copper and ash. The air smells of smoke and fear. Once a city of music and incense, it now quivers beneath the heavy tread of Babylonian armies. Siege ramps bristle against the ancient walls, their shadows crawl upward as the last rays of sun die on the horizon. Inside the gates, hunger gnaws, and every prayer feels like a whisper lost in the wind. Deep within Solomon's temple, the Ark of the Covenant rests beneath wings of golden cherubim. Generations have bowed toward this chamber, believing it an unshakable meeting place of heaven and earth. But the priests move like ghosts now, their rituals tight with desperation. Outside, the thunder of siege engines beats a grim rhythm. Weeks stretch into months. Famine hollows the city's heart, once proud courtyards echo with the thin cries of children. The Babylonians tighten their grip, their campfires flickering like a ring of distant stars around the doomed city. Prophets warn judgment, their voices rising against the wail of sirens and the crack of falling stone. Still the ark remains unseen, veiled in its silent chamber as if awaiting a verdict beyond human power. Then comes the night when the walls yield. Babylonian warriors surge through smoke-choked streets, their torches casting cruel light on shattered gates and frantic defenders. The temple's great doors splinter. Gold and cedar groan under the weight of flame and blade. Yet in the chaos, the Holy of Holies is found, empty. No gilded chest gleams beneath the spreading wings of cherubim. No tablets of the covenant wait to be taken as spoils. Only shadow and silence. The ark, the heart of Israel's faith, has vanished. The invaders strip the temple of treasure, golden lampstands, bronze pillars, sacred vessels. But the object of greatest wonder, the prize of legends, is nowhere. Some whisper it was hidden in secret tunnels beneath the mount, spirited away by priests who foresaw the siege. Others believe an angel carried it beyond mortal reach, or that it sank into the folds of time like a star slipping behind cloud. As fire consumes the city, the mystery deepens. Exiles weep along the road to Babylon, their eyes hollow with loss. Behind them, the once glorious temple collapses in a roar of embers, smoke curling upward like a lament. The ark's absence becomes both wound and riddle, a void where presence once burned. Years pass. The exiles sit by the rivers of Babylon and sing songs of Zion, their voices laced with yearning. In their memories the ark glows brighter than gold, a symbol of covenant and hope. But no caravan, no conqueror, no prophet can say where it lies. Not in the spoils of Babylon, not in the records of kings. Only silence. Back in the desolate hills of Judah, the Temple Mount stands blackened under shifting skies. Weeds push through scorched stones. Pilgrims who dare to climb its slopes speak of an uncanny stillness, as if the earth itself remembers the touch of something eternal and misses it. The Ark of the Covenant, once the blazing heart of a nation, has slipped into legend. Yet its absence does not end the story. Rather, it begins a new chapter of longing and search, a tale of whispered clues and relentless seekers that will wind through centuries. From this night of siege and silence, a mystery is born, one that will haunt empires and captivate pilgrims, a question carried like a spark across the ages: where did the Ark of God go, and will it ever return? Centuries unspool like windblown sand. Jerusalem's temple lies in ruins, rebuilt and ruined again, while empires rise and vanish like tides on distant shores. Yet the absence of the Ark only sharpens its presence. In marketplaces from Alexandria to Antioch, merchants and pilgrims trade rumors as eagerly as spice and silk. Somewhere, they insist, the golden chest still waits, untouched, undimmed, hidden by providence itself. The trail begins in Egypt, where ancient corridors of stone breathe with the smell of dust and incense. Some whisper that priests fled south during Babylon's siege, carrying the ark along the Nile to the island of Elephantine. There, among palm-shaded sanctuaries and the hum of the great river, the relic might have rested beneath a canopy of papyrus and stars. Temple fragments and faded papyri speak of a Jewish colony on the island, but offer no proof, only echoes. Farther south, beyond cataracts and deserts, another legend burns brighter. In the highlands of Ethiopia, amid emerald mountains veiled by cloud, the city of Aksum claims a treasure older than its own kingdom. Within the modest stone walls of the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, priests guard a chamber they call the Holy of Holies. No one but the appointed guardian may enter. Pilgrims gather outside, faces alight with reverence, convinced that within rests the true Ark of the Covenant. The guardian speaks rarely, but his quiet certainty feeds a faith that needs no evidence. Travelers from medieval times tell of seeing processions in Aksum where a mysterious object, veiled in rich cloth, is borne through crowds chanting ancient hymns. The air smells of frankincense and rain-washed stone. Whether the hidden relic is the ark itself or a cherished symbol of devotion, the devotion is real, a living flame in the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition that endures to this day. Meanwhile, other whispers drift through the sands of Arabia. Some speak of the ark carried deep into the Arabian desert, hidden in caves where only shifting dunes keep watch. Others imagine it resting in some forgotten chamber beneath the Temple Mount itself, concealed behind stones untouched since Solomon's time. Crusaders will later scour those subterranean passages, torches sputtering in the stale air, chasing the promise of a glory lost. In Europe's echoing cathedrals and scholarly halls, the ark becomes an obsession for chroniclers and mystics. Medieval maps adorn its imagined paths with gilded edges, while alchemists and Templars search for it as if it were the key to heaven's own chemistry. Each claim, each fragment of rumor, adds another layer to the legend, until the ark becomes less a single object than a moving constellation of hopes. Across these centuries, the mystery acquires a different kind of power. The ark is no longer merely a relic of Israel's past, it becomes a mirror for every seeker's longing for a perfect covenant, for direct communion with the divine. It is a riddle that refuses to resolve, a silence that speaks. In Ethiopia, the priests still keep watch, their chants rising through the cool mountain air as the sun sinks behind jagged peaks. In Cairo's labyrinthine markets, merchants still murmur of hidden scrolls and secret tombs. And in Jerusalem, pilgrims press their palms to the ancient stones, feeling for a pulse of something deeper. The ark's trail is a tapestry of possibility, a glint in the Egyptian dawn, a shadow beneath Ethiopian rain, a whisper in the Arabian night. Each legend, whether born of memory or yearning, keeps the mystery alive, carrying the lost relic across continents and centuries like a spark born on the wind. As the world tilts toward new empires and new faiths, the ark remains unseen yet unforgotten, a golden heartbeat pulsing through the dreams of kings and pilgrims alike, forever calling humanity to wonder where the boundary between myth and miracle truly lies. A winter wind sweeps through the vaulted streets of medieval Jerusalem, carrying the faint clang of church bells and the spice of distant markets. Long centuries have passed since Babylon's fires, but the mystery of the ark has only deepened, like a star that brightens as it recedes. Across Christendom, whispers of its power stir soldiers and scholars alike, drawing them toward the holy city with the pull of a hidden magnet. When the Crusaders captured Jerusalem in 1099, their red crosses blaze against the stone walls like sparks on dusk. Among the knights, rumors flicker of sacred treasure buried beneath the Temple Mount. Beneath shattered mosques and ancient cisterns, they dig by torchlight, their shadows wavering across damp stone. The Templars, warrior monks bound by secrecy, probe deep tunnels once known only to priests of Solomon. What they find is lost to time, but legends insist that strange relics were carried away under silent vows, fueling centuries of speculation. Far from battlefields, scholars in Europe pore over brittle manuscripts and cryptic maps. In candlelit scriptoria, they trace clues from Hebrew texts, Greek chronicles, and Arabic travelers' tales. Each theory draws the ark into new landscapes, hidden in a desert cave, entombed beneath Ethiopian highlands, or sealed behind the very stones of the Western Wall. For these seekers, the search becomes a quest not only for an object but for certainty in an age of fragile faith. Adventurers follow in their wake. Renaissance sailors skim the coasts of Africa, while Ottoman explorers roam the Red Sea's ancient ports. The scent of frankincense mingles with salt as they question monks and merchants about a golden chest that can topple cities. In the 19th century, European archaeologists descend on the Middle East with shovels and the arrogance of empire, peeling back layers of earth as if history were a puzzle to be solved with pick and trowel. Dust and rumor swirl together, each discovery breeding more questions than answers. The Ark becomes a mirror for the age that seeks it. For crusaders, it is a weapon of divine sanction; for Enlightenment scholars, a lost artifact of cultural memory; for Victorian adventurers, a prize of imperial imagination. Each generation projects its own hunger onto the gilded mystery. And still, no one lays eyes on it. In Ethiopia, guardians of Aksum maintain their quiet vigil, unmoved by the clamor of outsiders. Travelers arrive with sketches and bribes, but the solitary priest who watches the chapel's inner chamber offers only a patient smile. His silence speaks louder than any claim, a reminder that some truths are not for the uninvited. By the dawn of the 20th century, the Ark's legend has crossed oceans and seeped into popular culture. Novelists weave it into tales of lost worlds, filmmakers and pulp magazines turn it into a relic of thrilling peril. Yet amid the spectacle, genuine seekers still sift through ruins and libraries, convinced that one more clue waits in a forgotten text or a hidden chamber beneath Jerusalem's fractured streets. As modern excavators probe the Temple Mount and satellite images scan the Ethiopian highlands, the Ark's trail remains elusive. Perhaps it was destroyed, its gold melted into coins long spent. Perhaps it lies in a cave so deep that only the shifting earth will reveal it. Or perhaps its power was never meant to be captured by maps and measurements. What endures is the chase itself, a pursuit that reveals more about the seekers than the sought. Knights and scholars, explorers and dreamers, all are drawn by the same quiet gravity, the hope that somewhere with the Covenant's heartbeat still echoes, waiting to be found. And as each expedition fades into history, the Ark of the Covenant remains where it has always been, half legend, half promise, a silence that outlives every generation bold enough to chase it. Night settles over Jerusalem with a hush as old as the stones themselves. The western wall glows in the lamplight, its worn blocks exhaling the prayers of centuries. Pilgrims press their foreheads to the cold rock, murmuring words that drift upward like sparks. Somewhere beneath these layers of earth and memory, the question still burns: where is the Ark of the Covenant? Modern searchers arrive with technology that ancient prophets could scarcely imagine: ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, laser-mapped tunnels. Archaeologists sift through shards of pottery and fractured inscriptions, scholars decode faded scripts in forgotten monasteries. Yet the silence remains unbroken. The Ark eludes the lens as deftly as it once slipped past Babylonian swords. Far away in Ethiopia, the city of Aksum stands beneath drifting clouds. Priests chant inside the small chapel where the Ark is said to rest, their voices mingling with the scent of incense and rain-soaked stone. No outsider sees beyond the curtain. A lone guardian keeps watch, year after year, until death passes his duty to another. Pilgrims kneel outside, convinced that the true relic lies only a breath away, unseen yet overwhelmingly present. Others argue the Ark is dust, its gold melted, its wood returned to earth. Some say it never left Jerusalem, hidden in a chamber so deep that even earthquakes have kept it secret. For every theory, a counter-theory blooms, like vines twisting around an unyielding door. And perhaps that is the point. The Ark has become more than an object of acacia wood and hammered gold. It is a vessel of longing, a symbol of the divine presence that cannot be contained in any temple or measured by any science. Its power lies not in being found but in what it awakens: awe, reverence, the sense that the sacred might still break into our world at any moment. As the moon lifts over the old city, shadows stretch across the ancient stones. The air carries the faint sound of distant bells, the low murmur of prayer. The Ark remains unseen, yet its legend endures, an eternal pulse in the human imagination, a promise that somewhere, just beyond the reach of proof, the meeting place of heaven and earth waits in silence. And so the story continues, not with a final discovery, but with the enduring mystery itself, a golden echo through time, forever calling those who dare to wonder.